We are a single income family. I get to stay at home with my kids, which has been my dream since I was a kid. The entire world right now is having a housing crisis. What's it like to live in a tiny house on wheel with 4 people? Hi, my name is Ashley. I am the mama of That Hippie family. We are a family of 4. I have an almost 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. My husband and I all live in this tiny house on wheels. It is a 260 square foot tiny home. We just built this room, which is our mud room. It's about 10 by 10 feet. And so it's an addition onto our tiny house. My 2 little kidlets are napping together right now up in the sleeping loft, so I am taking this time to quickly make this video for you. I want to talk about how going tiny has pretty much created the life of our dreams. We are a single income family. I get to stay at home with my kids, which has been my dream since I was a kid. Growing up, my favorite game I always would play was house. I just wanted to have babies and stay home and care for them. And I am able to do that because we have chose the tiny downsizing lifestyle. My husband built this tiny house himself. We watched a lot of YouTube videos and designed it ourselves, put it together ourselves. It is 4 years now that we've been living in the tiny house, and we always knew that we were going to have a family in the tiny house, so we did design it to accommodate that. We have 2 lofts. One is our bedroom where the 4 of us sleep currently, and we have a second loft which we call our hammock loft. The hammock loft right now kind of is more of like a chill space. We have a TV up there. It's where we keep all our pillows and blankets. Eventually, my husband and I will turn it into probably our bedroom, and then the kids will have the sleeping loft where we're all currently sleeping for themselves. One thing a lot of people tend to ask me about the tiny house is, why build a tiny house? Why not just live in an RV or a motorhome? Tiny houses are different than RVs and motorhomes. We actually lived in an RV for a year while we built our tiny house, and I can tell you for sure they are not even comparable for many reasons. One, an RV is very closed in and dark and claustrophobic feeling. They're for camping in warm weather. The walls I would describe as cardboard. The wind, if it's really cold and windy, will blow right through that wall. A tiny home is built exactly like a house. Our tiny house is a wood frame house. Its longevity is 30 to 50 years. So our house is durable, long-lasting, strong, warm, dry. Let me tell you how we got into this position where we actually decided to build a tiny house, because I think a lot of people can probably relate. We saved up our down payment for our house. In Canada, you can put 5% down as a down payment as a first-time home buyer. And we went to the bank and we could not get pre-approved for a mortgage because I was self-employed at the time. And when you're self-employed, you have to have 5 consistent years of really good income, which at that time I didn't have. And then my husband at the time was doing a lot of jobs, odds and ends here and there. So you need to have at least 2 years if you're employed by somebody else in the same field of work, 2 years. So we had this down payment and we knew we were tired of renting. We were paying a fortune to rent for the tiniest little place. And at that time I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about tiny houses and kind of just asked my husband if he thought he could live tiny, and at that point he just wanted to be a homeowner, and so he said, yeah, let's do it, let's build our own home. And I was able to work full-time and provide for us while my husband took a year off and built the house. Now we're in our early 30s and we are homeowners. We don't owe anything on our house because we built it ourselves, and we just pay for our monthly pad rental. Currently where we're living is $700 a month, and that includes our water, we have well water, and our power. On top of that, we also pay our own internet bill, and we do have propane in the house for our hot water and our cooking. We used to use propane as well for heat, but with this new wood burning stove, it's game changing, honestly. This was the first winter where we didn't even have to turn the propane heater on. This wood stove heats the whole entire house, and it keeps it a lot drier, which is just Beautiful, beautiful. Should have put a wood burning stove in the house from the get-go, but we knew we were gonna have kids, so we were kind of nervous about having a wood burning stove. We have kids and a wood burning stove now, and it's not a problem at all. So if you're wondering, like we were wondering, I don't know, is that safe? You can totally do it. This is a gigantic wood burning stove. You can get one of those cute little ones and like put it up and put a little safety gate around it. If you're watching this video, you're probably already aware of the housing crisis in the world. It's not just where I live, which is on Vancouver Island in Canada. It's the entire world right now is having a housing crisis. I am sure there are some places obviously that are more affordable than others, but the cost of living is skyrocketing quicker and quicker, and our minimum wage is not. Let's quickly just go through some numbers and what the average family is paying for a standard house versus what tiny home dwellers, that's what I call us, are paying. Nationwide, a Canadian household making the median income of around $80,000, for instance, can afford a home of about $315,000 with a maximum insured mortgage of about $300,000. However, the average home price across Canada is almost $800,000. Yeah, where I live, the minimum you can spend on a house is about $500,000, and that's for a fixer-upper. This is so hard to wrap my head around, but it's the reality for a lot of people. I cannot bring myself, like we think sometimes if we sold our tiny house, we could use the money to put a down payment on a house, but I can't bring myself to spend that kind of money on a house. You're stuck with that house. I mean, you can buy it, flip it, trade it, sell it, whatever, you know, but the cost of that monthly, let's look at that monthly, okay? A typical mortgage payment in Canada in 2003 was reported the average monthly mortgage payment for a new mortgage loan was about $2,000 in Canada. In major cities like Vancouver, with a high cost of living, that number jumps to almost $3,000. Yeah, that's what it costs to have a mortgage, $3,000, and we're paying $700 a month. And that includes our water and power. The mortgage is $3,000, and then you pay utilities on top of that. I don't know how anyone affords to live. It really is mind-blowing. And then you have to add the cost of groceries. Don't even get me started on the cost of food right now. We built our tiny house for about $40,000. That doesn't include any labor, which was all my husband. So you might be wondering what it costs to buy a brand new tiny house. In Canada, I know it ranges from about maybe $80,000 lower end all the way upwards to $200,000 for a brand spanking new, shiny, fancy tiny home, which is a small amount, very small in comparison to what a mortgage costs. And you can move it. So if you don't like where you live, you move it to somewhere where you do want to live. So by choosing to live in this tiny house lifestyle, that enables us to live off of one income. We can live very comfortably off of one income even. We still are able to travel. We travel across Canada to see family all the time. We have some vacations that we like to go on from time to time. I haven't been traveling too much with the kids because I'm a bit nervous about managing them in another country. We're gonna do some traveling coming up here soon in the next year out of country. I'm getting off track now though. The point is that we are still able to do things as a family that we enjoy doing. My husband works 4 days a week. He just started a new job, so he's actually working 4 days a week, 8 hours a day, and he's home at 3:30 now. With his old job, he was working 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, and he was home at 6:30 p.m. So now he's able to work less, but he's getting paid more. He got a raise and a different job. So he's able to be home with the kids. I'm not doing this alone all day, 5 days a week, like 10, 12-hour days. Like my husband's not doing anything crazy. He's not traveling for work. He's still home 3 full days a week and for dinner every single day. You're probably wondering what he does. He is doing carpentry work and framing right now. The golden question I always get asked, what's it like to live in a tiny house on wheel with 4 people? It's kind of hard to explain because I don't have anything to compare it to really. We have always had the kids in the tiny house. I didn't come from a large house and downsize into this little house. We were living in tiny spaces kind of before this as well. But we're a very close family. We do a lot together. We obviously, like I said, co-sleep, the four of us in our sleeping loft. I really enjoy the types of relationships that we're nurturing together as a family of four. We're very comfortable living this way. If we find that we need personal space, there's always outside. You can go for a walk. We each have our own vehicle. We can drive somewhere if we need to. We've learned that it is important to always talk about your feelings. I know that's a tricky one, but yes, it's important to talk about your feelings and work through whatever's going on so that there's not hostility in the air, because it is a small space, and if you're going to ignore each other and create resentment, then it will feel smaller. So we're really good at trying our best to work through things. Sometimes it takes time. And as for the kids, they don't know any different either, and children are extremely adaptable. I don't buy a lot of toys because I don't have somewhere to put them, but a lot of the time when I buy toys for my son, he doesn't even play with them. He wants to go outside all day, every day. So we try really hard to spend as much time outside as we can. We do have a really nice yard, big space here where we've parked our tiny house. My husband built him a little playground. We're just trying to make sure that the outdoor space is suitable for children so that they can just open the door and go in the yard and be safe and play. The tiny house lifestyle is a mindset. I know it would be really challenging for some people to even begin to consider downsizing into such a small space. We have chickens in our backyard. We do as much gardening as we can. We do have goals to become more and more sustainable and teach our children this lifestyle as well. If we can raise our children to appreciate more than just the materialistic things, family values, planet Earth, learning to care for yourself, learning to grow your own food and raise livestock, and do things for themselves more independently, then I feel like that will bring a sense of freedom, because that's how I feel. I feel free from a lot of control. I don't like the idea of somebody else telling me what I can and cannot do or afford or have. I can pick up my house and move it. It's on wheels. I can put it anywhere. I'll never be homeless. One thing I can promise you though, if you think you can't downsize and go tiny, I can promise you that it might not be easy, but you could. When I started downsizing and getting rid of like so much of our stuff, we were so attached. We had the coolest like vintage furniture, and my wardrobe, I have had to downsize it multiple times, but I can guarantee that I don't miss those things. Those things are just things. They don't make me feel whole by owning more stuff. There is a downside to the tiny house lifestyle. Some places do not have the zoning for it or the bylaws in place for tiny homes. There needs to be some more groundwork done, I guess you could say, on that. A lot of us need to continue. Tiny home people, we all kind of need to stick together and make sure that those bylaws come into place and that we push for them, because when you live in a tiny house, the bureaucracy of it can be challenging. But they are becoming more popular. There are tiny home communities available, and if you're on private land, sometimes the rules change. And so I feel like with the cost of living, it's inevitable. Tiny homes are the way of the future. If you are in Canada, I will put some links in the description below this video to some of the resources that I used when we built our tiny house. Rewild Homes is my favorite website. They have a list of buyers and landowners looking for people to park on their property. It's a great place to start and kind of get a feel for like what's out there. There's a few tiny home builders that I will link. I hope this video makes you feel like you have another option besides just living in your normal freestanding house. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. I love to talk all things tiny house, and I really do want to help anyone who's thinking that this is something that they want to get into. I want to help you if I can. As always, I hope that you have a great rest of your day. We'll have a great rest of our day, and I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe if you're new here. I make videos on motherhood and living in our tiny house on wheels. So if you want to see a video with the kids and how we function together, make sure you stick around.